Hey guys, it's Q&A time on May 8th, 2018. We're going to do a fasting Q&A this week. A lot of really good questions. This thread filled up quick. It did not take long. I think the thread lasted like 15 minutes at most. Maybe not even that, but let's see here. Okay, go ahead and get into it. Beneficial to fast daily. Recently I've done so on my off days from training, and it definitely makes a day of less food easier since I don't start my meals until 11 a.m. or about a 12-hour fast. Hear about benefits of boosting GH of natural, and if using PEDs can combine GH and insulin to boost fat burning during the fasting hours. Would it help or hurt to do it every day? Well, just to clarify, the GH, whether it's endogenous or exogenous, is going to help with free fatty acid release. Don't really want insulin in there, so probably wouldn't bother with that. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if burning fatty acids is your goal. Like 12 hours is not really long fast. I mean, that's a matter of you eat at 10 o'clock one night and you eat at 10 a.m. the next morning. I mean, I don't know that I would consider that a fast. I mean, it is to an extent. You're not eating right when you get up, but it's not really that long. Definitely not going to be issues doing that daily. If it's convenient to your schedule, I don't see any issue with it. Help or hurt? I mean, it depends on context. It could, I mean, like I said, it could help with adherence and help with just convenience, lesser meal frequency, lesser meal preparation, so on and so forth. It's not going to hurt, not 12 hours. I mean, unless someone's cramming down like some obscene amount of food where they have to split it up into a longer time frame for digestive reasons, then no. I mean, I've had people that have done intermittent fasting, you know, like a traditional 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window, and eat 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories. I mean, it's not, yeah, they're full by the time they're done, but I mean, they have 16 hours to digest. So no, I mean, it could be helpful, but it's not, certainly not going to hurt. So you have to have a little bit more context to that to kind of figure out exactly what benefits you're looking for. But I think that just in general, not pounding your digestive system, insulin levels, pounding your pancreas constantly is going to be beneficial in that regard. So yeah, maybe just having 12 hours a day where you can give those things a break. You're not stimulating mTOR, you're not stimulating your digestive tract. Yeah, I mean, that in and of itself is going to be beneficial. And you can certainly still grow muscle that way if that's, you know, part of the concern. All right, how do you suggest people intake sodium and or other electrolytes during a fast? That's a good question. You don't hear that asked much, but obviously if you're fasting for longer periods and not having any electrolytes and you're having a lot of fluid, then you're washing out your electrolytes. I would supplement with them. You can just use sea salt or salt, whatever your preference is. Potassium, at least those main electrolytes. You could use like a mineral water. You could use a multiple electrolyte kind of blend, powder, liquid, stuff like that. But at the very least, I mean, sodium and potassium added to like a flavored beverage with like a little bit of flavored drink mix or something. Make sure it's a 0-calorie drink mix, not something that has a bunch of maltodextrin or dextrose in it. You could do it like that and just sip on it. Take what you would normally have in your meals and kind of fill it in that way. That's going to be a safe bet to at least maintain electrolyte balance. That's a good question, though. What are the other factors or signs you see in clients that suggest you should try and include fasting in their plan? Do you see it as a positive in every phase, gaining maintenance and fat loss? If not, what is the biggest drawback? Factors could be, again, adherence and convenience, like I said above. That could be one. Digestion, that could be another. If someone wants lesser meal frequency and they need that digestive break, that could be one. Maybe they are just super busy. Like, I guess that's convenience. They feel better training fasted in the morning. They don't eat for a little while. They are using supplements that require a fasted environment in the mornings to promote fat loss. So they need to stay fasted longer. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be potential factors. And yeah, I mean, I see it as positive. I mean, the biggest thing is you're still, when I'm talking about all this, in just this general sense, I mean, we're still talking about meeting total macronutrients, caloric needs, splitting up meals in ways that you're going to partition nutrients properly, you know, if you're timing carbohydrates and fats and all that stuff. I mean, you can still do those things. You just have some fasting in there, which does have some benefits, obviously. Drawbacks, I mean, there's not really a lot. Longer fasts would have potentially some hypertrophy drawbacks. In a short situation, I don't really think that that's going to be much of an issue with people, at least not anecdotally, not from what I've seen. So I wouldn't really worry about it in that regard. You know, so somebody wants to, for example, do a 12-hour fast every day, like I said above, and eat 4 meals a day, or 5 meals, even 4 meals. You know, if you're eat at 10 at night, so you eat 10 the next morning. One, I mean, shit, you could even fit 5 in there really easily. So yeah, I mean, it's not really a big deal if you want to do it that way. You're still going to get everything you need, and you're still going to grow. And then, do you see it as a positive in every phase? Okay, so I'll also ask about fat loss phase. Yeah, sure, it's a great way for calorie control, simply because you can eat less meals and eat less frequently, and you get a little bit more volume in your meals when you do eat. So yeah, I mean, it makes it a little more pleasurable you're not cutting calories by eating less often. You're still eating your caloric needs. It's just that you're getting a little bit more because it's less meals and shorter eating window. Some people enjoy it that way. Okay. And I should say there are instances where you could use fasting for further calorie control, cutting calories too, but that's not really the question. So, about how often would you incorporate, if at all, and for someone in an off-season muscle gaining phase? Yeah, I mean, there's instances where I would incorporate it. Maybe it's a digestive thing, insulin sensitivity. They need a break from pounding all the food if someone's eating a lot. Could be any of the reasons I stated above as far as the schedule, digestion, adherence, convenience, all that, you know, so on and so forth. I have off-season clients that do use fasting. Some that use, like, periodically, like I said, for insulin sensitivity and for digestive purposes and for rotating, you know, like calorie cycling reasons. So, I mean, it's hard to say how often, just because there's a ton of different ways to use it. But I mean, it's something that you can regularly do for any of those purposes, depending on the context, depending on the person. You could even do it daily to an extent, like I mentioned above. Although, like I said, the 12-hour thing is not super long fast. I mean, that's hardly a fast. You're just fasting a little bit in the mornings, really, before you eat, but it's still something. You're not eating right when you get up. But, yeah, lots of reasons you could do it. Definitely don't see anything wrong with it if used correctly. Maximum length of time that you find fasting still beneficial for fat loss. I'm not sure if you're asking, like, how many weeks, if you're going to keep using a fat loss or a fasting type protocol, or how long, like hours. I'm assuming that's probably the question. I mean, there's obviously going to become a point where you could lose muscle tissue if fasting too long. You know, these 48 and 72 hour fasts, I mean, there's definitely potential for muscle tissue loss. With that said, you know, if you're just fasting not to eat and to eat less calories, I mean, something like, for example, one of my clients, he's probably listening to this too. We did, in his last aggressive fat loss phase. It was a mini cut phase. We did a pretty aggressive one. This worked really well. We basically did 24-hour fasts every off day. Fasted from the night's meal previous to the following night. So basically fasted through the whole off day. Definitely didn't lose any tissue. Still ate a big meal that night, but way less calories than his training days. And then training days were normal, more so normal, with not that aggressive of a fast. So, I mean, you can do things like that. I wouldn't probably fast 24 hours every single day necessarily. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have an hour length as long as you're not fasting for days at a time. I mean, if you're concerned about muscle retention, that is. In a dieting phase, would you recommend fasting in combination with GH for its lipolysis properties? What's the half-life of Yohimbine HCl, meaning when should one break her fast after fasted cardio protocol? Yeah, GH could be used. It will help in this regard in a fasted state, free up the fatty acids. You can burn those off. Works really. I mean, in theory, if you combine the two, the Yohimbine, also you're going to hit another pathway and further the benefit of the fasted environment there. So the Yohimbine half-life is actually pretty short. Depending on the person, everyone metabolizes it a lot differently. Actually, Dr. Scott Stevenson did a video on this at one point, and it was really interesting the way people metabolize it, drastically different. I've seen anything from like a 15-minute to a 2.5-hour half-life on it. Seriously, I mean, for me personally, I feel it, and it doesn't last very long, to be honest. I would assume that I probably metabolize it pretty quickly. I tolerate it really well too, so it's probably in and out, metabolized really well. Some people are going to feel it a lot longer, but you know, if GH is in the mix, then you're looking at least a few hours, if not more. So I mean, it'd be really easy to incorporate Yohimbine taken upon waking. I mean, by the time you maximize that few-hour window, the Yohimbine's done its thing. So a few hours, you know, if you're gonna eat if you're doing a little bit of fasting in the morning, you're going to eat it, get up at 5, and you're going to eat at 9 or 10. I mean, you got tons of time. It's really not that difficult to get a few hours in the morning and maximize any of those fat loss supplements, whether it's GH or Yohimbine or anything like that. It's not really too difficult to do, to get a few hours in there, just to ensure that fatty acids are being released. But you could even go longer than a few hours too. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea. How to go about fasting as a woman when it negatively impacts hormones in terms of her cycle, and how to counteract it. Okay, so this is an interesting one. I actually did a little research on this at one point. The fasting, like some women hormonally can be thrown off really, really easily. There was even one piece of research I said that missing one of their regular meals threw off their natural hormonal cycle throughout the day. That sounds really extreme to me. I'm sure that there's some truth to it. How noticeable that would be, I'm not really sure. But I can say this, that just through experience with most of the females that I've used fasting protocols with, they haven't really had any issues. But I'm not using anything super crazy. You know, we're not using like multi-day fast or anything. I have one person I use a 24-hour fast with periodically, but not. That's an extreme example. Most of the time it's less than that, like an intermittent fasting protocol or something like that. I mean, you're still going to get the benefits of the endogenous GH in the morning. You know, your body's producing that. Good environment for fat loss. It's hard to say. I mean, how do you counteract it with just not fast? I mean, that's really the only thing. I mean, if you would notice that it's doing something extreme like throwing off your menstrual cycle because of your fast, then you're going to probably want to revisit what you're doing and either make the fast shorter, less frequent, change something in that regard, less aggressive of approach somewhere. I don't really think that there's any way that you're going to do anything to counteract it other than make it less aggressive. Because, I mean, any of those hormones that you're stimulating, that you're needing to stimulate, you're going to break your fast by stimulating them, essentially. So yeah, that would be my answer to that one. All right, a couple more. Fast before an eating competition. That's a joke. Funny. Thoughts on fasted weight training. I personally feel like shit if I do that, but I've had a few clients who work odd hours and get sick if they eat early in the morning before lifting. I tell you, man, I've had plenty of clients that do really good with it, feel really, really good. Now, you got to look at what definition of fasting here. If somebody wants to do it for schedule purposes, they don't feel real good doing it, you could even do something like not necessarily eat a meal, but sip on an intra-workout shake that has caloric value, something that digests quickly, like a whey hydroxylate or casein hydroxylate and carbohydrates or something. They're not fasted during their weight training. That stuff's going to hit the bloodstream pretty damn quick. And, you know, they have, their muscles are going to, it's going to partition to those muscles. They're going to maintain blood sugar, all that good stuff. So they probably won't feel any ill effects at that point if they need to do it for schedule purposes. But I've some people that have trained straight up fasted, just water, no amino acids or anything, and they felt fine. I mean, there's even some, if you search around online, there's even some pretty good powerlifters that are really, really strong that made a lot of their best progress training fasted. So it's really person dependent. I think some of it also depends on what your diet was like the day before. Are you deep into a deficit? Are you, you know, all of those things, what kind of glycogen stores you have, all that stuff. So me personally, like I can train fasted. It doesn't bother me. Actually, most of the times I train fasted, though, I do have at least amino acids. I know that I've done plenty of fasted training with just like EAAs, and I normally get a nasty pump and the workouts are awesome. And that's just me. I mean, I honestly, like I feel pretty good that way, training that way. But I know not everyone does. So just something you kind of have to experiment with it. Full fasted training, starting training with empty stomach, just sipping on something like EAAs or hydroxylate, or whey hydroxylate and carbohydrates. So, I mean, you kind of experiment and go like semi-fasted. It's not really, you know, not really fasted at that point, but there's some different things you can try, see what you feel like. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it if the person feels good doing it. Okay. One more. Shift work and fasting. Good idea or not? This is an interesting one. Okay, so there's going to be some factors here, like how often is the person rotating shifts? Are they rotating like daily or very frequently, or is it just every few weeks or something they rotate? You know, I wouldn't be super keen on fasting in this place, in this situation, because we're already dealing with a lot of hormonal imbalances in terms of fast-acting hormones, like all the adrenal hormones, you know, your cortisols, insulin, you know, melatonin. I mean, even things like melatonin, just because if you're staying up all night in bright lights, fluorescent lights, or all that blue light exposure and stuff inside your building or whatever. Yeah, I'm not super keen on it, to be honest. At least in a longer sense. You know, if you're fasting for 12 hours, probably not a big deal. If the shifts are a little bit further apart, you know, you're only switching shifts every, you know, few weeks or something, every week, maybe you can do it that way. But if you're shifting constantly, I'm not, like I said, I'm not super keen on doing it. Probably eat normal meals while I'm awake and, you know, not while I'm sleeping, depending on the situation. So, all right, guys, that is it for this week. Really good topic, and I will get this posted up, and I will talk to you guys next week.